She never expected you to walk away. She assumed your loyalty was permanent, that no matter how far she wandered, you'd still be there, waiting, watching, hoping. To her, you were the fallback, the quiet, reliable man in the background, not the storm, not the one who disappears and doesn't come back, but something shifted. No argument, no final goodbye, just silence. You stopped chasing her energy. You stopped needing her attention to feel like a man. You stopped waiting for her to notice your worth. And that shift, quiet but powerful, rattled her. It wasn't sadness. It was confusion, then discomfort, then regret. Because now she's questioning what she really walked away from. Was it just a man who once loved her, or was it a man who evolved into everything she never thought he could be? And now, here you are, not playing games, not seeking revenge, just becoming. You've been through the silence, the detachment, the ache of letting go. Or maybe, just maybe, you've already started to rebuild. Wherever you are in your journey, you are not alone. And if this message hits you in the chest, if it mirrors a truth you've been carrying in silence, then make it count. Like this video, subscribe to the channel and drop one word below that defines who you're becoming. Unshakable. Because here at the Stoic Spirit, we don't chase. We don't beg. We rise, we rebuild, we become the shift. There comes a moment in every man's life when something inside him quietly breaks and then rebuilds. Not because she came back, not because closure arrived, not because time healed him, but because he stopped. He stopped chasing what had already let go of him. He stopped orbiting a woman who no longer revolved around him. He stopped looking for meaning in silence, signs in absence, or validation in someone who chose distance. Here's the truth most men miss. Chasing isn't always about calling or texting or pleading. Sometimes chasing is emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual. It's when your thoughts follow her, even when your body doesn't. When you check her status like it's hardwired into you. When you rehearse conversations in your head that she's no longer part of. That kind of chasing is invisible, but it drains you. Quietly, slowly, deeply. Until one day, something shifts. Not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. You wake up. You realize you're tired. Tired of waiting for the message that never comes. Tired of decoding silence like it's a secret language. Tired of tying your self-worth to someone who already moved on. And so you stop. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. Out of clarity. You don't need a final message. You don't write a dramatic goodbye. The shift happens within. Quiet, real, lasting. Your mind reclaims the space she used to occupy. The mental real estate you were renting out to. Memories to hope to illusion. That space is yours again. You stop checking her page. Stop wondering if she watched your story. Stop caring when she was last online. Instead, you invest in what matters. Your peace, your strength, your purpose. The energy that once fed a fading connection now fuels your evolution. You're not orbiting her world anymore. You're building your own. And for the first time in a long time, that feels right. And what most men don't expect is this. She feels it. Maybe not consciously, maybe not out loud, but energetically, she knows. That emotional string she used to pull is gone. That quiet tension she used to test you with, it's been cut because you're no longer chasing. You're no longer waiting. You've shifted. You've risen. You've become. You're not cold. You're not cruel. You're just gone. Emotionally, spiritually, energetically unavailable in a way she never imagined. And that disorients her. She was used to you responding. She was used to your emotional availability. Even when you weren't physically there, she believed she held a permanent place in your heart. But now that space is quiet, still, closed. And here's what most women never expect. Emotional power is something they often take for granted until it's gone. You were her anchor, whether she admitted it or not. But when you chose yourself, truly chose yourself, she lost that influence. Not because you needed to prove anything, but because you stopped negotiating your worth. You stopped trading your peace for potential. You stopped bending for someone who stopped meeting you halfway. And something sacred happened in that moment. You returned to yourself, fully, without explanation, without conflict, without asking for permission. That, brother, is the real shift. Not revenge, not emotional games, not trying to make her regret, but rising quietly with dignity and self-respect. You realize now, your value doesn't live in her perception of you. Your strength doesn't depend on whether she sees it. And your peace is not something she can grant or take away. You've reclaimed your center. The ground beneath your feet feels solid again. And here's the irony. The moment you stop needing her energy is the exact moment she starts feeling yours disappear. Because when you finally stop chasing, mentally, emotionally, energetically, you become a man she can no longer read, no longer access, no longer move. And that silence? It speaks louder than any final text ever could. The psychology behind it is simple, but most men are never taught this. Not by their fathers, not by society, not even by their own experiences, until it's too late. We grow up believing love means sacrifice, that being endlessly emotionally available is a strength, that patience is loyalty, that vulnerability is depth, that consistency makes you irreplaceable. And to some degree it does, but no one talks about the cost. The truth is, emotional availability is a currency, and like any currency, it only holds value when spent wisely. Give too much of it to someone who doesn't value it, and its worth collapses. You thought showing up made you strong. You thought being there, listening, caring, checking in, was proof of your commitment. But what no one tells you is that the more predictable your emotional presence becomes, the more likely it is to be taken for granted. Not because she's cruel, not because she's manipulative, but because human nature devalues what feels permanent. What's always there becomes background noise. Like music in another room, pleasant, familiar, and completely ignored. Even if she walks away, even if she blocks you, ghosts you, dates someone else, deep down she still believes you care, that you're checking her stories, that you'd respond if she reached out, that you haven't truly moved on. That belief is her safety net, not because she plans to come back, but because it gives her emotional control. But imagine what happens when that net disappears. No closure, no final message, no dramatic goodbye, just silence. Not the kind that waits for a response, the kind that no longer needs one. You're gone, not physically, emotionally, no reaction. No chasing, no curiosity about who she's with or where she is. And that right there breaks the psychological pattern. She expected grief, she expected longing, she expected you to hurt out loud, but instead you healed in silence. And that's disarming. Now she has to reconsider everything she believed about her place in your life. Your detachment isn't loud, but it's powerful. It disrupts the emotional story she wrote for you. She thought she'd always be remembered, always be missed, always be watched from a distance. But now, she can't even find the door to your emotional world. And human beings, they hate confusion, especially when they used to feel in control. So what comes next isn't a message or a call or a sudden apology. It's a quiet, internal conversation. She starts asking herself, did I misread him? Was he stronger than I thought? Did I mistake his softness for weakness? These aren't ego questions. They're questions born from the collapse of her comfort zone. She thought you'd wait, stay broken, stay stuck, but now she sees something else. You evolved, not because she left, but because something inside you finally clicked. You realized you were giving too much to someone who never asked for it. So you stopped, and in that stillness you took something back. Your power not to control her, but to no longer be controlled by her absence. She doesn't dictate your moods anymore. Her silence doesn't trigger your anxiety. Her attention doesn't define your worth. You've taken the emotional remote back. And when that power is gone, it creates a vacuum. She feels it, not always consciously, but deeply. Her emotional rhythm is disrupted, and in that disruption, a mirror appears, not a reflection of you, but of herself. She starts seeing what she chose, the kind of man she lost, the emotional pattern she keeps repeating, and for the first time she realizes love doesn't wait forever. And what stings most isn't losing you, it's losing access to who you've become, because now you're no longer a background character in her story. You're the man who outgrew the role she gave you. She's been written out of your story. And what replaced her? Purpose, discipline, growth, not as a performance, not for attention, but because you finally saw yourself. She's no longer comparing you to who you were. She's comparing herself to who you've become. And when your evolution outpaces hers, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that reflection becomes uncomfortable. Not loud, not cruel, just a quiet truth. I no longer have influence in the story I used to control. That's what true detachment creates. It's not just about letting go. It's about becoming unreachable to the person who once had silent control over your emotions. So the next time you think silence is passive, remember this. Silence isn't emptiness. It's a message that says, I don't owe you an explanation. I don't need your understanding. I made peace without your permission. That's not weakness. That's not bitterness. That's psychological sovereignty. The kind of power no one hands you, because it's the kind you reclaim the moment you stop chasing and start leading yourself. There's a kind of strength that doesn't speak, it doesn't shout, it doesn't explain, but it changes everything. It's called silence. And most men never learn this strength because it doesn't look like dominance, it doesn't look like control, it looks like calm, it looks like space, it looks like peace. True silence isn't empty, it's the final form of clarity. The kind you reach when you've said enough, felt enough, and finally understand that nothing more needs to be said. You're not ignoring her, you're honoring yourself. You tried, you showed up, you gave grace. You offered chances that weren't even asked for, but now you give yourself space, not to punish her, but to protect your peace. And that, she notices, maybe not at first, maybe not consciously, but it builds the stillness, the absence of explanation, the gap where you used to justify, to engage, to fix. It's gone. She expected friction, she expected emotion, she expected you to prove, once again, that you still care. But instead, you offer silence. And that silence says everything. It says, I'm no longer trying to fix what disrespected me. I don't need to be heard to know I'm right. I won't give up my peace to chase something that never honored it. That's when everything changes. She used to hold quiet power over you. She knew how to trigger you, delay, distance, withdrawal. But now, your silence isn't reactive. It's not a move in a game. It's a new state of being. You're not waiting for closure. You're not hoping to be understood. You're done needing her to get it. That's the real evolution. It's not about making her miss you. It's not about proving your worth. It's about no longer needing her recognition at all. You've reclaimed your energy. You've redirected it back to your body, your goals, your discipline, your peace. And the man who lives in peace, he becomes a mirror she wasn't prepared to look into, a reflection of everything she misread. Because now, you're not chasing attention. You're living with conviction. You're not replaying old moments. You're creating new ones. That quiet confidence, it doesn't need applause, because it's built on self-respect. And here's what most women don't expect. Your silence doesn't perform. It doesn't beg. It doesn't punish. It simply exists, strong, steady, unmoving. And in that silence, she starts to hear what she never listened to before. She remembers the man who gave too much, the man who tried, the man who stayed too long. And she realizes he's gone. Not bitter, not broken, reborn. You didn't go silent out of weakness. You went silent because growth doesn't announce itself, it just moves. And when she checks your page, sends that message, or tries to feel where you used to be, she feels something unfamiliar. Stillness. You're no longer available. Not just online, but emotionally, spiritually. You're not cold, you're centered, you're not hiding, you're aligned. And that shift, it's irreversible. Because silence, when rooted in self-respect, is louder than any words, louder than any final message, louder than any apology that never came. It says, I don't respond to absence, I don't live to be chosen, I don't ask to be seen. I've stopped waiting, I've stopped hoping, I've stopped spinning in circles. Now you walk forward, eyes ahead, voice calm, power intact. That's the power of silence, and once you master it, you never go back. So when she starts to notice the difference, when she starts to wonder where your attention went, when she checks your page and finds no trail to follow, when she sends a vague message and is met with silence, she doesn't just feel ignored. She feels something deeper, replaced, not by another woman, but by something far more powerful: purpose, discipline, growth. She senses that you no longer orbit her world. And that realization, that you didn't go silent to bring her back, but because you stopped asking for clarity from someone who chose confusion, that's what truly shakes her. Because now, the one thing she can no longer feel is your energy. And that's the moment she knows you're gone. You stopped explaining yourself, stopped waiting for a response, stopped performing emotional labor that was never reciprocated. You finally saw yourself and realized your worth was never tied to her recognition. And that realization, it didn't just change how you feel, it changed who you are, not because your heart shut down, but because you finally protected it. Silence, in this case, isn't absence, it's control, it's not avoidance, it's clarity. And when you stopped chasing her, you started facing yourself. You filled the silence with discipline, with movement, with creation. And now she starts to notice. It never happens right away. There's no sudden phone call, no heartfelt apology. It creeps in quietly. She lingers longer on your photos. She scrolls, but doesn't like anything. She watches your stories, not out of nostalgia, but confusion. You were supposed to wait, you were supposed to chase, you were supposed to be stuck in that emotional loop forever. But now, you've become unreadable. Your silence creates a vacuum, and where she once had emotional control, she now finds distance she can't bridge because she no longer knows how you feel, or if you feel anything at all. That unpredictability, it disrupts her balance because people don't just crave control, they fear losing it. So she might test the waters. A vague message, a comment on something old, an emoji with no context. But those aren't declarations, they're probes. She's not reaching out for you, she's reaching inward, trying to understand her own reaction to your absence, because the door that once stood open, the one she believed she could return to any time, is now shut, and she doesn't know how to feel about that. She tries to gauge how much of you is still emotionally available, how much of your heart still reacts, how much of your attention she still commands. But you've stopped responding, not just in messages, but in energy, and she feels it. Even if she never says a word, she feels it. Because the emotional tether she once relied on is gone. And what replaced it? Stillness, presence, purpose. She used to feel adored. Now she feels unacknowledged. Not because you're punishing her, but because you've stopped seeking her recognition. You've stopped giving her the power to shape your identity, and she doesn't know where she fits in your life anymore. That is the shift. Because she used to be the reference point, the measuring stick for your joy, your pain, your ambition. Now she's not in the equation at all. And that creates emotional dissonance, because it's clear your life isn't stagnant. It's moving, growing, becoming. not out of revenge, but evolution. Your silence isn't a tactic, it's a transition. It means you've stopped defining your life around someone who left and started defining it around someone who stayed, you. And when your life begins to reflect growth, not performative change, but real transformation, it shows. Your posture changes, your tone deepens, your gaze sharpens, your smile becomes honest. And that version of you, she doesn't recognize him because he's not begging, he's not explaining, he's not performing. He's present, focused, composed, and most importantly, unavailable, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. He doesn't react, he doesn't flinch, he doesn't wait for closure because he gave it to himself. And that's when the tension hits her, not because she wants you back, but because she realizes she no longer has influence, and maybe she never meant to lose it, but it's gone. She's on the outside now, watching a man she once knew become someone she can't reach. And the hardest part? You didn't do it to make her feel anything. You did it because you finally stopped needing to feel everything through her. You stopped negotiating your peace. You stopped tying your worth to someone else's presence. You stopped chasing what was never reaching back. And in that decision, you became unshakable. Not because you built walls, but because you built a foundation. Not because you closed your heart, but because you finally centered it. And now, you're not waiting to be noticed. You're not lingering in hope. You're walking in purpose. She might notice, she might not. But it no longer matters, because you didn't become this man for her. You became him for you. You didn't lose her, you outgrew her, and that's not something you ever need to explain, because it doesn't happen in a single moment. It reveals itself in all the quiet ones. The moments you used to break under, now you walk through. Then with calm. Most men never realize how far they've come. Because healing, it isn't loud, it isn't posted, it isn't rewarded, it's done in silence. You don't get applause for choosing peace over pain. You don't get credit for walking away when every part of you wanted to stay. You don't get recognized for not reacting to what used to ruin you. But the results, they speak. One day, you look up and you're no longer flinching at her name. No longer rehearsing conversations that never happened, no longer checking if she saw your story. You're just free, not because she gave you closure, but because you finally realized you didn't need it. True growth isn't found in revenge, or rebound, or who wins the breakup. It's found in your stillness, in how you no longer bend for approval, in how you stay grounded when silence returns, in how you carry yourself when no one's watching. You're no longer triggered by what used to tear you apart. The same patterns that once pulled you into self-doubt now pass through you. Her absence doesn't feel like loss. Her opinion doesn't hold weight. Her energy no longer steers your direction. Maybe it didn't happen all at once. Maybe it came in waves, quiet mornings, long nights, weeks of confusion. But through it all, you rebuilt from nothing. And now, you're present, composed, intentional. Not because she came back, but because you did. You returned to your values, your strength, your center. And the life you're living now, it's no longer defined by her presence or her absence. It's defined by you. She no longer gets to show up and shake your rhythm. She doesn't get to press buttons and watch you fall apart. She no longer has emotional access to your peace. And that access, it used to be her comfort zone. Now it's closed. Not out of bitterness, out of growth. Because your life didn't pause when she left. It didn't collapse. It accelerated. The moment you stopped waiting for someone who already walked away, you gave yourself permission to become the man you were meant to be, without needing her to see it, validate it, or be part of it. That's what it means to outgrow her, not just to survive the pain, but to evolve into someone even she wouldn't recognize. Someone stronger, more grounded, more focused. A man who doesn't seek closure because he became it. You stopped explaining your worth. stopped replaying conversations that never gave clarity, stopped negotiating your self-respect. Now, your time is invested in your body, your discipline, your peace. What used to be emotional dependency has matured into self-possession, into power. And she feels it. She feels the void where your attention used to live. She senses the absence of the man who once placed her at the center of his emotional world. And whether she says it or not, she knows. She no longer has the power to shift you. She doesn't get to wander back in expecting the same version of you to be waiting, because he's gone. You're not writing your story with her as the backdrop anymore. You've taken back the pen. Your life is unfolding on your terms. Your success doesn't need her applause. Your peace doesn't ask for her permission. Your happiness isn't built on her return. That is real growth. That's when everything changes. Because you didn't just move on. You evolved. You became more than the man who once needed her. You became you, fully. And when she senses that, not just through your silence, but through your stillness, she doesn't just feel distance, she feels disconnection. She realizes she no longer has access. And that's the win no one can take from you. You don't need to post it. You don't need to prove it. You live it. So if this message hit you where it needed to, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Drop a word in the comments that defines your journey. One word, untouchable. Not for validation, but as a reminder to yourself that you are no longer a man who begs, bends, or breaks for the wrong woman. You are not what she forgot. You are what she will never access again. This channel exists for men like you, men who rise, men who rebuild, men who stop chasing and start leading. There are brothers out there right now, drowning in silence, thinking they're alone. By engaging here, you make sure they hear this too, because it isn't just content. It's a mindset, a shift, a movement, and now you're part of it. You're not broken. You're just getting started.